Well, thank you so much, Evelyn, for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with me and my audience today. I appreciate it so much. There's a lot I want to pick your brain about as far as this topic about grief is concerned. So I'm going to get straight into the questions. First, can you just tell my Elevate audience a little bit about yourself, your family? Just give us a little background.
Well, my name is Evelyn Sexton-Wiggins. I am married to Colonel William E Wiggins. I am the mother of 5 beautiful children, 4 girls and 1 young man.
Yeah.
My children's ages range from 12 to 31.
Wow.
I am the executive director also for Remnant Center of Excellence, which is a nonprofit organization which we provide mentoring for the youth. Over the years, I have had a love for God and for his people. And because of that, I've served in the ministry in various departments for the last 30 to 35 years. And at some point in my life, I saw a need for Christian counselors. And I decided to go back to school. Originally, it started out with me going back to encourage my god sister. And then I went on and called myself encouraging my sister. But somewhere along the line, I really started to see the need. And so now I am going back to school for counseling. I am not a counselor,
Okay,
but I am in school. Yes, ma'am, to get the licensing.
That's great.
The state of Maryland requires a license. I am going to school to be a licensed counselor. And I recently, because there was a need to want to help, I recently started a group to get through their grief.
Okay, wow, that's wonderful. Such a wonderful introduction to tell us a little bit about who you are. Now, speaking of grief, there was a time in your life personally when you were grieving after the loss of some family members, Aunt Janie, you're my cousin and she's aunt, died some years ago, but then also your brother and your dad. So that was a difficult time for you. And the holidays were difficult. You recently told me that the holidays were a really hard time for you. Can you share with my audience a little bit more about that time in your life?
Yes. Throughout the years, I have suffered tremendous losses, at least in my eyes.
Right.
At 20 years old, I lost my mother, as you said. And then from there, I actually lost 3 children. I had 3 miscarriages along the way. And then in my 40s, I had 2 devastating losses. I lost my father, my brother.
Right.
And then a year and a half later, I lost my father.
That's right.
Now, one would say, well, why are those, so devastating? It wasn't that I loved them any more than I did my mother, but they were complicated griefs, where there were issues and there were circumstances that had to be worked out, and we had to weave our family together and make changes. And because of that, it caused me just to grieve a little bit more. Somewhat like a mother or a father, a spouse that is married and their loved one passes away. They now have to deal with not only being a widow, but they have to deal with being a single parent. They have to deal with if that spouse did all the work around the house, if they cooked, they cleaned, if they handled the bills, they now have to take on all of those responsibility. And a lot of people, they don't think about that. They say, oh, it's going to be all right. Don't cry. They try to encourage you.
They do.
After the months go by. And you're in the mix of trying to weave your life back together. Sometimes you're there by yourself and you need help and you need people by your side. And so that's the reason why, as I told you, I went back to school.
That's right.
Because there was a time when I found myself, I think it was like during the Christmas holiday, and I kind of felt like there was like this white cloud, where I just didn't really want to do anything. I didn't want to celebrate because
Oh,
the holidays
yes.
reminded me of the fact that they were no longer there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a hard
So,
time. Yeah, and I think it makes it particularly hard when you feel like, or the world tells you you're supposed to be happy. I mean, that's
yes,
what's all around you, all the commercials, deck the halls with balls of holly.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
people shopping and commercials where the families are sitting around eating holiday dinners. And so I think it makes a difficult time even harder, don't you think?
yes, most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And that's the part that really makes it so hard,
Yeah.
what you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
because you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, everybody else is telling me to get over it. Why
I
can't I
know.
shake it?
I
Why can't?
know.
But the truth of the matter is,
Yes.
it's normal.
Yes, it is.
Normal.
It is normal. But I think as Americans, we have a more difficult time with grieving. I think as Americans, I think our culture says, just get busy, just do the next thing,
Yes.
just keep it moving. I think in other cultures, because I know people from some other cultures, they live here now, but they still practice the grieving and the mourning that their culture, has given them. And they don't do that. They don't move through it and try to pass it over like we do. So, and I think that there's something very unhealthy about just saying, oh, well, I should be better now, so I'm going to pretend.
Yeah.
Because you said that for a while, a lot of people, you told me this before this conversation, didn't know that you were,
Yeah.
struggling with the grief. And so that brings me to my next question. I know grief looks different on different people, but how did that look for you during that time? Because you obviously were doing something because people didn't know.
Yeah. Well, during that time, as I was saying earlier, I had to deal with those losses within the loss.
Yeah.
And nobody knew, it's funny. I look at this time, this season that we're in now, and
Yeah.
I often think about the fact that we're all wearing masks,
Yes, I
and as you
know.
talked about, you know, well, they had the best of it, started messing up.
Yeah, it did. It did. We'll just pick it back up. So what I will do is, you were talking about, I was asking you how grief looked for you during that time, because you said that a lot of people didn't know that you were even dealing with that. How did that look for you?
Okay. As I stated earlier, I had to deal with the losses within a loss, taking
Right.
care of a family.
Mhm.
As I was telling you earlier about, the young
Yeah.
spouse and all of that. And
Right.
so I had to deal with issues and affairs of the family,
Yeah.
going to court,
Oh.
handling different things.
Mhm.
And when you're in that kind of a process,
Mhm.
it's like you never really get to mourn and get through it.
Wow. Wow.
Because while you're in that process, it's like every time you have to pull out a birth certificate,
Oh.
every time you have to go down and fill out papers, or
Oh.
every time, it's like you
Yeah.
pulling it all back up again.
Oh,
It's
I guess I never
reopening
thought
up the
about that.
wound. Yeah, it's
Yes.
reopening the wound. And most people, they don't think about that.
No, because
Most
they're
people,
not necessarily doing that part of it.
that's right. That's right.
Right.
They just want the money, but
That's right.
it can be a
Yeah.
very difficult thing,
Yeah.
if it takes time,
Yes.
because you have to continue to go, into that.
Right.
And so for me, the holidays, while, nobody knew, because I tried to make sure that everything was perfect for my kids, that they
Sure.
had everything they needed.
Right.
But inside, I was still hurting, because there
Sure.
were times when they would ask me for those things around the holidays.
Right. 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 Right.
And I had to deal with it,
Oh, yeah.
So
So that was. And so the next question would be, so how did you get through it? What did you do? What happened? Or was there one thing? Was there a series of things? How did you get through it to get to be to a better place? I think that there are people that are going to be listening to this interview that are weighed down with grief. And I think for some of those people, they might feel it's never going to be good again for me. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be happy again. How did you get to the next place?
Well, for me, what I did was I came to a point where I really kind of really cried out to God.
Yes.
And, I was like, God, I need you to really help me. I
Yeah.
need your help. I'm tired of
I
feeling this
know.
way,
Yeah.
and then I really had to set myself down and really get into the word and actually sit and listen to him. But
Yes.
because I had a heart, I think, for the things of God, he heard my cry. And then
Yes.
he began to send people unbeknownst to me
Yeah.
to minister to me and give me what I need. I never forget, I would go one place and I get a nugget from there and I'd be like,
isn't
and
that a
go
blessing?
somewhere else. Yeah. And I never forget, I went into, I heard a service that Pastor John Hannon gave. And he talked about how he himself he kind of dreaded Mother's Day because he had lost his mother.
Right.
And he talked about how, the Lord has spoke to him and the Lord brought it to his attention that every Mother's Day, he actually had made a date with depression.
Oh,
so I remember hearing that.
Oh my God.
Like, wow.
That is quite eye-opening.
Yeah. And I never forget, that was the final day. I was working my way through and I was doing well. Right. But at that point, I said, no, there's no turning back. I had already started setting up things to celebrate their life, their lives.
Sure.
Some of the things that I did was I set up scholarships.
Good.
My nonprofit,
sure.
That's all a part of me giving back what they gave to me because they put, all of these things in me and my husband. Yes. And so we're able to share with others. Yes. And so those things began to be my joy.
Yes.
And at some point, I stopped dreading the Christmases.
Wow.
I stopped dreading, the holidays, and I enjoy them now.
Oh my God.
I enjoy, me and my son will go down to a homeless shelter or something, and we'll just bless some people. I enjoy those things.
Wow, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. So you turned the mourning, MOURNING, into laughing, in the sense that into joy. You turned this corner and you were able to take that energy that you were expending on mourning, on grieving. Not that you shouldn't have had the time to do that, but you did that. But you seem to be able to transfer that energy to something new, to something positive. I think that's a very powerful thing you just said. And I'm hoping people will really hear that from you. And I know we need, and people are in different places as far as the process is concerned, but I think it's important that people really hear that you want to, at some point, I don't know when that is, it's different times for different people, of course, but at some point you want to take that energy and transfer it to something positive, and you were able to do that, and now you have your joy back, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's such a blessing.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, you said the key word, new. Yes. But some people, when you say new, they think of the word to replace. Oh. We are not replacing anyone. Oh, wow. But what we are doing is we're doing something different. Yes. In our life. Different. The new means different.
Different. Absolutely. I think it's good to clarify that. Because I definitely. Right. I think one of the things I read recently is that when someone has lost a significant other, be it a mother, father, child, husband, wife, they dread, I read this recently in a psychological report, they don't want people to forget them. They don't want people to forget their loved ones. So, so I think it's very important that you made that distinction, that you're not talking about forgetting and replacing, you're just talking about doing something different to remember them by, which I think is
exactly
super important. And so, so now, what are some, I want to ask you this two ways. What are some helpful things that family and friends can do to help a grieving family member or friend? And then I want to ask you, what are some things that people shouldn't do? Because sometimes, and you and I talked about this, I think off camera, people will say and do, and they mean well.
Yes.
But they will say and do the darndest things, and you're like, oh my God, that was absolutely the wrong thing to say. And
Yeah.
so what are things people can do? And what are some things that people should not say or do?
The things that I feel they should not say would be, sometimes they say, well, at least she lived a long life.
Oh,
For the grieving person, is like, but she didn't live long enough.
No,
what are you talking about?
I want her to still be here.
Yeah. And then sometimes they say, he or she is in a better place.
Oh
no. I want them here.
Exactly.
That's the thought of the mind. And sometimes they say, sometimes they say she or he brought this on themselves.
Oh my God.
Depending on what happened. And that's never right.
Never.
To me, that is never right.
Never. So all these, and for some people they mean well, but they end up coming off as insensitive. I think that I think it's important to understand. I've told people, and this wasn't in regards to a loved one who had died. This was in regards to another situation that we're dealing with a daughter who has some mental health issues, and people will have said things to me that have been extremely insensitive. And what I've told people is, you know what, it's okay that you don't have the answers. I understand that, but it would be better to just to listen to me. It would be better to just listen. It's okay. You don't have to have all the answers. And just to tell me, you know what, look, I don't understand everything, but I know you're hurting, and I'm going to pray.
Exactly.
And so you don't have to come up and say anything profound. The doctors are still figuring it out. They don't know all the answers. So I was just curious to hear your thoughts about that. So definitely don't say those things that you just mentioned. So what are some things that people can do when a loved one is grieving?
Well, I'm glad you said can do.
Yes.
Too, because one of the things I think about is the fact that we should respect the person, and we should sometimes just practice the ministry of presence.
Oh, wow.
Without judgment.
Wow. That's big.
Practice the ministry of presence. Sometimes, as you say, we have to really be mindful of our words.
Yes.
Because rather than saying something, sometimes a person could get a lot more from just a hug.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's just being there, just saying, you know what, I was thinking of you. I know this is a hard time. Just wanted to let you know I love you. I'm here for you, sister. Yeah, just that, I don't have any answers. I wish I could make it better. I know I can't, but I'm just here. And like you said, the ministry of being present. I love that. But I don't know whether we're comfortable with that. I think that for some people, they feel like they have to have an answer, and you end up saying something ridiculous.
Exactly. Exactly. People, they feel like that they just have to say something.
Yeah, they gotta say something.
And before you know it, you done put your foot in your mouth.
Terrible. Yeah.
I love the things though that you said. Those are the things that you're supposed to say. I don't know how you feel.
Right. I don't know.
But I'm here for you.
Exactly.
In any way that I can be.
Sure.
And then once you say that, listen.
That's exactly right. That's exactly one thing I read. It was a pamphlet I got. I don't know. It may have been from a funeral home after doing my Aunt Dolly died. I guess it's been 2 years now, like today. But and I think they had pamphlets, the different ones that could pick up. Anyway, and it was like the 7 things for grieving, or 7 things you can say to a person who's grieving. And I just remember one that stuck out on me, and it said, to ask a person, how are you grieving today? How does grieving look like for you this week? Because like you said, the grieving, after those first few weeks, the funeral is over, everybody's then gone by, no, the food is gone, all that, now it's month, 2-3 months later, and for that person, they are still grieving, but to go ahead, and if you follow up with them to say, how are you, but even to be more specific than saying, how are you, but to ask specifically, how is your grieving been? How is grieving looking like for you now, 3 months later, now that your husband is gone? And I thought that was really a good thing to ask, because I just think you need to be specific, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
And I would agree, because when you say, how are you?
Yeah.
In their mind, they're thinking, I just lost my husband.
Exactly.
So, but when you make it specific, then they can tell you what their needs are. They can kind of tell you what they're going through. And so that's important, that you actually be specific. Another thing is, you can actually have conversations with them about their lives.
That's important.
And allow them to open up, to you, and tell you the things that they want to share with you.
That's exactly right. Right. Yeah. One of the things that on that topic, just on that particular point you made is, I've had two friends this summer, two dear homeschooling friends, ladies I homeschool with. We've known their families, them and their husbands, for years. Both men died. Two different families died of heart attacks, one mowing the lawn, and another one, and these are people our age, so not old, and so it's been very, very hard. And I know we're coming into the holidays, so I'm thinking about some of the stuff you're saying so that I can apply this to my friends who are coming up on the first holiday after losing their husbands. So but one of the things that when I was on the phone with one of them recently, I was just saying, they wanted to talk about the husband. So I asked questions. So where did Britt go to school, and where did they really loved, she really loved talking about him. Yes. You know what I mean? And so I thought that was really, and so I just asked her questions, and she was more than happy to answer them, because I think it just reminded her of him. Yeah. What do you think about that?
And that's a part of the healing process.
Really?
As we talk and we begin to, we talk about things, we get it out. Yes. And that starts the healing process versus us keeping it in. When we keep it in, we're like this balloon that's blowing and blowing and blowing. At some point, it's going to pop. Wow. And where it pops, we have no control over. It could pop out in our marriage. It could pop out with somebody in the store or the job.
Exactly. It could go anyway,
Yeah, but giving people an opportunity to talk and giving it a listening ear, it allows them to express the feelings that they feel at that moment. So I think that is absolutely wonderful, and it helps them to process.
Wow. And you mentioned something that, that grief, especially if it's not being talked about, if the person is holding all of that in, it can manifest itself anytime, anywhere, in very negative ways. And I've had a situation happened to me recently that I've actually told you about off camera. And I guess my question would be, and I didn't put this on that list of questions, but it's just kind of come up in what you said, is what do you do when you've got someone who's really angry? How do you handle that, or how do you respond to that person? Obviously you don't want to get angry back, but if they're lashing out at you because they don't know what else to do, that can be pretty difficult, particularly if it's somebody that you see on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Yeah, that can be hard.
Yes, it can be, but as I was saying earlier, that's when the ministry of presence, but distance. Presence.
Yes.
To where you let them know that you're concerned. Okay. And in due time, you'll be there. You'll always be there.
I love that.
To hear them. I think that is really important. Yes. And in some cases,
Mhm.
over time,
Yes.
they'll open up.
Right.
And
That's true.
in some cases, you could encourage them to
Yes.
try and join a local support group.
Yes.
Maybe join one with them. Say, look,
Exactly.
I'm joining this group,
Yes. Yes.
because
Yes.
I'm feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
Would you like
Yeah.
to come with me?
Right. That's a
That would
great
be,
idea.
yeah, that
Those are
may
those
be
are
a
those
good
are
idea.
Yeah, that's great. And so, and I guess what I want to ask you to wrap up. So we talked about what family and friends can do if a loved one is grieving. And so, but what if you need more? What if that
Mhm.
person, and you sort of just hit on that just now, but in addition to talking to family or friends, what are some resources? Where can people go if they are just in a place where they are really in trouble? You know what I mean? They need the next level. Can you talk about some of those resources?
Yes, I think one of my first advice would be
Yes.
that if you feel
Yes.
that you want to take your life,
Yes.
if you feel that you cannot go on,
Yes.
reach out to
Yes.
someone
Yes.
quickly.
Yes.
You can dial
Yes.
there's a national suicide
Suicide line, yeah, hotline.
hotline
Right.
that
I'll
you
put
can
that
call.
number up. Yeah.
Please, sir,
Yes.
please, ma'am,
Yes.
reach out to someone at the suicide prevention line.
Gotcha.
But other than that, I would encourage them,
Mm.
during this time is get close to God.
Yeah.
And as you do that, be
Mm.
honest with him. If
Yes.
you're angry,
Yes.
tell him that you're
Yes. You
angry.
can tell him he can
If
take it.
you're hurting,
Yes.
tell him that you're
Yes.
hurting.
Yes.
He's a big God.
Yeah,
He
he can
controls
take
the
it.
whole universe. You think he can't
Exactly.
control,
Right.
he can't control our
Exactly.
little problems?
Exactly. Exactly. He can
Yeah.
handle our anger.
Yes.
Yeah, he can handle that. Yeah. I love that.
He wants us,
Yes.
to come to him for
Yes.
answers.
Yes.
And when we come to him,
Yes.
get into the word
Yes.
and be prepared to hear him talk back to you because he
Yes. Yes.
speaks through his word. He
Yes.
speaks through the heaven, the earths.
Yes.
I remember one day I heard this lady say, she said, God is always speaking. It's
Always.
just whether or not
We listen.
we are listening.
Amen.
And
He's
when we
always
open up our
talking.
ears, he
Yes,
begins to speak to
he
us.
does.
You know,
I can verify that. I mean I
yeah,
can confirm that. But you've got to be willing to
yes,
listen. I
yes.
love that. Now, what about, well, counseling? I mean, this is something you're studying to be yourself. Is that a good resource?
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say.
Yeah.
Find you a good grief and loss support group.
Okay.
I think that they are excellent. They are
Oh,
excellent.
wow.
And if you
Wow.
can't find a grief and loss support group,
Yes.
try to find a counselor.
Yes.
They can get you the help you need.
They can.
No, you are not
Yes.
crazy if you go to a counselor. No, you're not.
No,
You're
it's
normal.
a wonderful resource. That's
Yeah,
right. That's
yeah.
great. I think
There-
it's great. And I think for people who say, well, I can't afford a counselor, let me tell you, I know for certain, because we've done this in the past for one of my other children, you can find counselors that offer their services on sliding scale fees.
Yes.
There are counselors that are, that are affiliated with what do you call the local social work, social centers here or in whatever city that you're in. There are affordable counseling out there. And nowadays you can do the counseling thing online. I mean, people are doing a lot of counselors are offering their services, over
That's right.
online. So you don't even necessarily have to worry about getting in your car and traveling to someplace. If you
That's
don't.
right.
So counseling is definitely a resource, don't you think?
Most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely. I think it's a valued resource. And I
Definitely.
think for many years, it's been underrated.
Definitely.
But this is the season that I think
Definitely.
people really should take advantage of it, especially when it comes to grief and loss. Because of COVID, we've
Yes.
experienced so much
Oh my
grief
goodness.
and
So
loss.
much loss. Yeah. Unprecedented losses. I
Yeah,
mean, as far as, well, at least in our lifetime, I know that there have been there are other, pandemics and, back in the day, but most of us have never seen this kind of death ever.
Yeah.
in our lifetime. And
Yes.
so, I think this is a real season for, of loss and for people needing to reach out. And I don't know what you think about this, but I think in the African-American community, I think sometimes we have even more taboos than most about getting help. What is that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
I thought about that today. We've always been told what
Yeah.
they say, fake it till you make it.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Mask
yes.
up, put your lipstick on.
Yeah, that's it.
Mascara.
Right. We've said all that. Yeah, but that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily work.
It does not work. It does not work, because at some point, the real you is going to come out.
Oh, it is. And all that other stuff is still there.
Yeah, because it's still there. That's right.
It's still there. So we need to get away from that. It's okay to get the help you need.
Most definitely.
I want to tell my people, please, if, like you said, if you're in trouble, go ahead and get help.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Well, you know what? We could go on and on about this. There's so many things that, even as I talk to you, have popped up in my mind, questions. But you know what? It's a subject that we can revisit at another time. But I really think that it's good for people to hear this now, particularly as we get ready to go into Thanksgiving. And of course, after that, Christmas. People are hurting, and I think they need an encouraging word, and they need resources that they can plug into. So I appreciate you taking time out your schedule and being with us today. It's a real I think it's going to be a blessing to a lot of people. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing
this is a blessing.
this opportunity.
Well, that's great. Well, say hi to the family, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
All righty then.
All right.
Have a blessed day.
You too now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.